All right. Hey guys, welcome back to another Area 51 podcast episode. We took a small break during the Thanksgiving holidays, and we've got well, we're back with our favorite guest, Stephen Brown.
I
Hey
appreciate it.
Stephen,
Hey,
welcome
good to
back.
see you. Thank you. Thank you. Hope everybody's doing all right here, enjoying the holiday season.
Yep. I mean, the way last year's Christmas shaped out, Stephen, I don't know. I'm a little
I,
apprehensive as we get closer to December
I,
25th.
I like distinctly remember my wife and the kids were doing something with her mother like that Christmas Eve. So I was like
Right.
upstairs playing video games, and like I'm like scrolling through Twitter as like something was loading, and I was like, oh shit. Like, it's like we got a Christmas mass, and my wife's like, "Why are you stressed?" I'm like, seeing
What
Twitter,
is
and I'm like, "Oh my god!" So yeah, I'm hoping
this year's
um,
better? Yep.
our politicians decide not to get everybody angry
Yeah.
in one evening.
Because Elon's done this podcast with this popular Indian entrepreneur. His name is
Mhm.
Nikhil Kamath, and he's mentioned H1Bs again. So I'm like,
Yeah,
great, it's December. Thanks for
yeah,
doing that, Elon. Yeah, wait to the whole year. Bring it. End of the year, December is kicked now, and he started off that topic, and I hope it doesn't spread and reach where it was
yeah. We'll
last year.
see. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. But we got a lot going on, man. It's
Yeah.
social media vetting, EADs, and a couple of other things. So let's start off with the one that everyone's a little concerned about: social media vetting. Right? We saw it come through for F1 students and a bunch of other visa categories. Right? They for some reason left H1Bs out, which I found surprising at that time. And a few days ago, they released an updated guideline stating that now H1Bs are going to be subject to social media vetting. Can you give us a little more context on that? Like,
Yeah, and so it's interesting because we kind of get this vague announcement from Department of State that we know F, M, and J non-immigrants, which are all kind of student visas,
yep,
have to have their social media profiles to public while they're going through the visa process with Department of State. And they announced it earlier this week, like, hey, we're going to do H1Bs and H4s too. And what it really says, like, first off, let's take a step back. We know on the DS 160, and it's been this way for a good number of years now, you have to disclose all your social media handles. So,
yep.
like, that's not really new. What's new with this policy is you have to keep your profiles now
I'm
to
like,
public, and it's still a little bit of a vague policy because like what what does that mean? Like, I'll tell you a good example. Like, I keep a lot of my social media public. I don't keep my Facebook public because I have kids and there's weirdos in this world,
yeah,
right? Like, I
yeah,
just like I don't need them
yeah,
seeing pictures of my kids.
yeah.
And so we also don't have a lot of guidance from Department of State, like when does it have to be open? I mean, that was kind of debated on the listserv today. Is it when you apply for the DS 160? Is it when you schedule the interview? Is it when you go to the interview? My advice would be do it when you have the DS 160, right? When you submit the DS 160, I would just open it up, make sure. So what are they
But
saying
that's
that
usually a long time, right, Stephen? Because
I know it
we've
I
got
know
to
it
plan
is.
like a
And
year ahead. So we're supposed to plan out a year ahead. So keeping all, like you said, there's a lot out there, right? It's super easy for folks to find out. All right, okay, this guy's based in this particular location. All right, let's look it up. And residential addresses, unfortunately, in the US, I don't know why, it's just a Google search away, right?
yeah, I mean, I mean, there's you can look up, with a easy name search,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
where someone lives. And it is, unfortunate. And I'm curious to know, and I'm hoping in the next little bit, because this policy goes into effect December 15th. So, like, as of
Okay,
December 15th. So we have 10 days.
okay.
They say we're going to expand the requirement that online presence be reviewed to H4s and H1Bs, identify individuals who are inadmissible, national security, yada, yada, yada. And I'll tell you, like, one thing we've seen, Rahul, before, like, before Trump 2.0, we saw people with that they would have issues at the consulates, like their LinkedIn. And what I mean is they maybe have their job title wrong, or
Yeah.
I've seen it where they're trying to, they're working at a third party, they're doing like consulting work, and they list the end client, that they work for Apple when they're, at ABC
Yeah.
Consulting, and like, they're just trying to like make yourself look good. But I've seen that be an issue before all this, right? Trump 1.0, right?
Yeah.
Um, and now I don't, what they're looking for. I know they've talked about, we've seen it before, like who has anti-American sentiment. Like, okay, it's like probably wouldn't recommend the listeners to go around being like, F Donald Trump and this guy's an idiot and like, cursing out America, right? Like,
Yep. Yep.
but I'm going to be
Yep.
honest, with a lot of our listeners, that's not a thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
there is a respect for the country. There's a
Yeah.
love for the United
Absolutely.
States a
Yeah.
lot of times. And yeah, we disagree on policies and maybe law and enforcement with the government right now, but it's not like we hate America. We've also seen them make a push against anti-Semitism. Not something I've seen in this community, a lot of. There are groups,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into the geopolitics
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Israel Palestine, but we've seen
Yep.
them go after people who support Palestine.
Yep.
Even social media,
Yep.
postings in support of it. The only kind of thing that's, I don't know, kind of weird ish that I've seen is these stories about like censorship. And I don't know, like, what does that mean? Like, they say here in a couple news articles that there was a cable from Department of State that say, we're going to look for people who have engaged in censorship or hindering free speech. And I saw one of our like the members of the Area 51 community
Yeah. Yeah.
like, okay, I worked at Facebook. We know they've engaged in it before. They've admitted to engaging it before. Like, am I screwed? And I don't think they are. Like, I think what
Yeah. I
they
thought he
like,
read a little too much into it, but
yeah,
I
like I
see
think
his
when they
concern. I see his concern. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
totally get it,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
like the worst things can happen, but I also think like, okay, if you're the person who um does censorship, right? Like you're the censorship chief for Meta, then
Yep.
okay, like maybe there's gonna be
Yep.
a thing. Um so
Yeah. If you're
I
like a
tell you
mid-level
this, like
employee, I don't
this
think you should
policy's been
be.
in place
Yeah.
for F1s, H or F, M, and J, and I haven't heard any major issues yet. That's not to say there won't be.
But
Um,
I have seen a few posts on Reddit where folks have said, "Hey, my Reddit account is not public," or some stuff, something like that, or I think he listed his Reddit account, or he didn't list his Reddit account, something like that, and he got like, what is it called, a 221G or something? What is it?
yeah, for the administrative
And I was like, oh
processing.
my god, the whole point of Reddit is,
Yeah,
it's
and I'm curious to know how much they're going to enforce because there are some that are like right, like Reddit is anonymous discussions.
yep,
Um, and I guess they don't want that. To a certain extent, I'm trying to do a DS160 right now to try to like see what social
work
media
it.
they're looking for because the 2021 didn't say
It's
Reddit. Um,
I think I saw Reddit when I
so
did mine last year when I went to Canada and got it stamped back when they allowed the third country stamping, national stamping. So I think I did see Reddit in the
it
list.
might
Yeah,
be
yeah,
so I
yeah,
have a like one that I have saved on my desktop and it's like a
yeah.
2020 version PDF, right? So I
Right.
can like when somebody emails me and is like, hey, what does this mean? And I can
Yep.
be like, okay, I can help you. Um, you know what that question means. So I'm trying to pull up what it is now
Yep.
um to see, and I just
But it's like a
delete.
trip down memory lane because they've got some really legacy platforms in there, which I doubt
No,
anyone
like
uses.
the one from 2020 had MySpace, and it was
It's
like
still there. Still there.
I don't even think MySpace is active as a social media platform.
No.
I could be wrong. Uh, I haven't used it since like middle school.
Yeah.
Maybe high school we still had it, but it's definitely outdated. But I think the big ones, right? Like LinkedIn,
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
X, stuff like that you need to be cautious about. And I say cautious. It's again my experience with like, especially the Indian national community is it's like, okay, yeah, we might like talk, we get together for dinner, like you and I text for like what the fuck's going on. But we're not like blasting the president on
Yeah. Yeah.
social media. There is a respect, there is you know, uh, a
For the most part.
appreciation.
For the most part. Yeah.
Agree. And I always tell people like we could talk generalities.
Yeah.
Um, at the end of the day, like there's always exceptions
Yeah. My
to the rule,
concern
but
is
I
there's a
don't.
tweet that somebody's venting out on X, like an angry venting tweet against USCIS or the immigration backlog or something. Is that going to come and bite someone back when they
No,
do
okay,
that?
here we go. I got to the social media part. Whew.
Oh, you did? Okay, okay.
Yeah, so here's the list of social media platforms. So here's what it says on the DS-160. Select from the list below social media platforms you've used in the last 5 years. In the space next to the platform's name, enter the username or handle. Don't provide passwords. You can provide as many as you want. Um, and so their list here is ask.fm, uh, Duban, Douban, I've never heard of.
Yeah.
And I know some of these are like international. So Facebook, Flickr, Google Plus, Instagram, LinkedIn, MySpace, Pinterest,
MySpace is
Qzone,
still there. Okay.
yeah, Qzone, QQ, Reddit, like you said. Sina Weibo, I've never heard of. Tencent Weibo, I've never heard of. Tumblr, Twitter, Twoo, Vine, I think is dead. Vonk Takti, it looks like that's a Russian. Yuku, YouTube, and then none. So,
No, no, I thought you were going to say Napster or something. Like,
gosh, yeah,
that's how
like
old.
what's your have you ever used LimeWire, to download music? So, the list is pretty extensive. So let's talk about what most folks that are listening have. Maybe Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram, LinkedIn, maybe a
Twitter.
Pinterest, Reddit, Twitter, maybe a Tumblr, and a YouTube. Like our
Yep.
most
Yep.
common ones. And you do have to, with this policy, keep it public. I'm hoping in the next few days, like a couple
But
weeks,
how
we
would they
get some
know,
guidance.
Stephen? How would they know that a person has all these accounts if you've not
So
publicly listed it?
agreed.
Yeah.
Like the only caveat to that is they are using a lot of AI in adjudications and very powerful AI. And so I think I'd be cautious on not disclosing. And again, this has been something for years, asking you to disclose this social media. This isn't
Yep.
new.
Yep.
Um, the keeping it public is, and it's like I said, I think it's a little invasive. I don't know what they're really expecting to gain, and I'm curious on the statistics of it because again, it's most people are boring on social media. Like let's be frank. Like, and I know there's people that get into it. I know there's people who who are advocates and debate politics and all that. And I don't
Yeah.
think there's anything wrong with that. Like if
Yeah.
you got on Twitter tomorrow and be like, wow, I don't agree with this EAD policy, I don't think you're going to get your visa banned, right? Now I think you say if somebody says something like, you know, let's commit crime,
Yeah.
right? Let's make false
Yeah.
claims to
Yeah.
citizenship.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably going to have your visa
Yeah.
denied.
So what's it called?
Right.
4chan? Yeah. Don't get on those platforms. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, we've seen, and the weird one we've seen is people who have had immigration repercussions for being pro Palestine. And
Yeah. We've seen that.
again,
Yep. Yep.
not a discussion I even have the breadth of knowledge to know, like the
I think
geopolitics of
there
it.
was an Indian PhD student who got who self-deported. I don't know if you saw the
Yeah,
news from Columbia,
and
Yale, or
so
something. Yeah,
that's that's out there. They're linking it to anti-Semitism, but again, the vast majority of the people are like, yeah, we might debate policy, and yes, we might debate the immigration policy. I don't think that's going to be ruled out.
yeah,
Um, I honestly, I tweeted that when this came out, and I said, God, I kind of thought this was a rule already. Um, Obviously, thinking more of the F, M, and J ones, but you know, I don't think it's as wild as people think. And until we kind of see trends, we won't know
yeah,
to the extent,
yep, yep,
are they going to come after, like, look, I know you've talked about the green card backlog, documented dreamers, all that. Like, do I think they're going to be like, oh man, this guy has been on social media talking about that? I don't think so. Is
yep,
it like in this wild world where anything goes? Like, could we see, like, if, could we see that in a year from now? Maybe.
maybe.
I
Yeah,
just don't think we will.
yep.
Um,
You still have that social media page open on your DS1060.
yes.
Is
Yes.
there was a paragraph that
Oh,
said
no, I did close it. Damn it.
there was a paragraph that said if there's more than one person handling this account, you don't have to necessarily disclose that. Is that still?
Mm.
Uh,
So it
I've
says if you have used more than one platform, it does not say. Um,
because on the
okay,
right hand
list
side,
the
yep,
username, handle, screen name, or other identifiers associated with your social media. You do not need to list accounts designed for use by multiple users within a business or other organization.
yep,
Okay, so like good example, like I
yep,
have our law firm's Twitter account.
yep,
Our marketing person has our law firm's Twitter account.
yep,
Emily Newman has our firm's Twitter account. Like
yep.
that's probably not one I would have to turn over. So let's say you are a social media
Gotcha.
manager or you do something that involves social media for your company. You're a marketing person and you represent. Okay, let's go back and use Facebook, right? Meta. You run social media for Meta. Like I don't think you have to turn over your username of at Meta. Then
Gotcha. Gotcha. Because I'd always wondered about that. So if you had your account and two, three people use it, you really have to disclose it
yeah,
at that point.
and
Yeah.
and that's not uncommon, right? To see either. I do find it interesting. So this is kind of funny, and I've got this pulled up, and this is something somebody had brought up to me, just kind of as an offhanded joke, and um, Twitter is the listed social media. Like as far as Elon Musk is concerned, Twitter doesn't exist anymore. I know people might have used it in the last 5 years when it used to be Twitter, but now it's X. So, if you created a new X account,
Tomato, tomato.
yeah, now I say that jokingly. I mean,
Yeah.
making fun of the Twitter X thing, I would not leave it out and be
Discard.
cute at the office, consular office, and be like, well, I don't have a Twitter account. I have an X
Yeah.
account. Like,
Yeah.
you'll probably get your visa denied
So
just
there are
for
a
being
lot
a
of
smart ass.
yeah, for sure. I can imagine. I don't think the officer would see
I don't think they're gonna find the
it.
humor in
Yeah,
it.
I don't think so, guys. Yeah. So, Steven, a lot of folks on X and a couple of other platforms that have anonymous accounts, right? So,
Mhm.
is the expectation that all those folks declare what anonymous accounts they use?
I think so. I mean,
Oh,
if it's
wow.
their
Okay.
account, and again, I do think we're gonna get more guidance on this from Department of State because again, their policy is vague. Like, when do you have to open it to public?
Yep.
How public do you have to make it? Like, do you have to keep it open um, for good example, like for Facebook, you can have it where if people tag you, you have to review it before you're
Before.
tagged
Yep.
in it.
Yep.
Do you have to have it so public that the government, Department of State can tag you and make sure you you know, what are
Yeah.
the rules here? But
Yep.
I don't think I don't think this is going to be a huge thing for most people, but I am curious, they
Yep.
went H-1B is just a hot topic right now. You know, they go
Yep.
from
Yep.
F, M, and J because we
Yep.
see some of the, in the government's opinion, you have like people at Columbia that are protesting pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, and so the
Yep.
government doesn't like that. And now we're over to H's. Like, why don't we have L's? Why don't we have O's? Why don't we have TNs? Maybe those are coming. They're just trying to gradually roll this out. I also just don't, we know the H-1B is a low hanging fruit right now for them to be like, we're doing this
Yeah, it's a
against
buzzword, right?
H-1Bs.
Yep. Yep. It's a word that gets everybody instant attention. It just
Right.
says
And like
what's
most people don't know
yeah.
where the hyphen goes, but like are experts. Right. And I mean, I saw some of the like anti H-1B groups that are like, this is big. It's going to cut down on. I'm like, it doesn't cut down on
Yeah.
anything. Like
Yeah.
it's.
If somebody's stealing it, I'm telling you, from an H1B standpoint, the only angry tweets you're probably going to find is against the immigration backlog. Nobody
Yeah. And
cares
like,
about
I
your
think,
politics. Nobody cares about anything. Nobody cares about. Uh,
I'll tell you, and I know not everyone, subscribes to the same values I do. Like, I always tell people, like, I will not put something on social media like I wouldn't take to my boss, right? And like same thing with like the government now, I
yeah,
guess. Like, would you
yeah,
show the government this? And I have said some things on social media. I watch a lot of sports. I'm an Aggie football fan. Like I say a lot of things that are like, you know, in the heat of the moment, but I would still show my boss,
yeah,
right? I would
yep,
still show the government. And same thing with like immigration advocacy. Like I still think you can have public discourse.
yep,
I just think you also can't cross the line when you're like, you know, saying things that you couldn't show your boss.
yeah, yep. It's follow a code of conduct, right? Is
Yeah,
even if you have folks a lot of trolls on social media, right? Even if you've all got
right.
all those folks, don't you don't need to fall down to their level. Just
I,
keep
I'll
it
tell you
clean.
this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I, you know, I get a lot of people say a lot of things in my mentions, and I just go mute them because then I get the interactions for Twitter, right? But then I don't have to see it.
Steven,
Like,
look at you gaming the
yeah,
system.
yeah, right. Like if I block them, I don't get the interactions.
Yeah. I'm making a
But if
point to
they're,
thank them. Like just today, I was like, there's
I saw
some
your
trolls
one.
who doing it. I was like, two comments were just putting hyphen between the H and the
I
one.
saw that one. I laughed. I laughed pretty good. I was getting out the door and I saw that. And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." But look, I mean, I always tell people I've done some conversations with people on social media before in other organizations, and
Yep.
you're not gonna change anybody's mind on social media. Like
Yep.
this goes for politics. This goes for like sports teams, cricket teams. This goes for
Absolutely.
immigration. Like, and so I get it. Like, this is people's lives, and this is passionate. People are passionate about this, but you're not going to change like these trolls that are like just overtly racist, right?
Yep.
You're not going to change their opinion,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
And so
100%.
just be cautious, like with what you're saying, in light of this, like knowing the government's going to look at it. I also don't know, like, good example, like what are they looking at? How far? Like, I know people that have tweets that are scheduled to be deleted every 2 years through an app, right? Like, you
It's a
could
good
do that.
point
And I
you
just
bring
don't
that up
know.
because I was going to ask you that. What if I go back and what if somebody goes back and just sanitizes their social media history? Right? They delete stuff they don't want to be seen outside.
Yeah, so
Is
I'm
that a
curious. So
good strategy?
you still have to list the social media, right? Like it says
Right.
any social media platform you've used in the last 5 years. And I just don't know. Like, let's be frank. Like, the government has a lot better technology than you and I know exist. And
Yep.
so, do they
Yep.
have a way to go back in like the super awesome government way back machine to like see what your social media looked like? I just don't know. You know, and again, what are you deleting? Are you deleting like your advocacy? Are you deleting like, you know,
Let's say a few years ago, I or somebody else, let's say person X said something unsavory against the government, right? This guy decides to go like, oh shit, I need to get rid of this. I go back, find that tweet, delete it. Is that something that people need to be thinking about? Go back and look at their tweets or their posts or their Instagram reels or whatnot, and then and fix
I
it.
I don't I don't know to what extent they're going through things. I truly
Okay.
don't, because we have like this little snippet.
Yep.
Again, I know the government has more information when it comes to immigration than we would imagine,
Yep.
right? Like I have seen requests for evidence that go into the levels of detail that like the guy, people are like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You talk about like I have seen cases that it was like back when there was the H-1B registration issues, right? And they were like, here's how we linked these like 17 companies as all owned by the same person, and it involves like there's a lien, Joe has a lien on Jimmy's house,
Yep.
through a business dealing. Um kind of thing. And so there's a lot of information the government has. So I don't know like if sanitizing it is necessary. I
Okay.
also think if you're like, look, heat of the moment, maybe I didn't mean this. I've deleted tweets before, like I'm like maybe I didn't want to say that. I
Yep.
don't think it's wrong to do it if you're like heat of the moment, but I also don't think I need to go back and look through every tweet to make sure. But if you're like,
Gotcha.
maybe last week I shouldn't have said like I hope Donald Trump stubs his toe tonight. You know, maybe, all right, maybe you go back and delete that. You've decided I don't need it. It
Gotcha.
didn't really, so just, I think just moving forward, be smart. Again, I
Yep.
follow the rule like
Yep.
I've got Twitter, I've got like, social media accounts that my boss knows about. I got ones that my boss doesn't know about. You know, would I show that
Yeah.
to my boss? And everything I
Yeah.
put up is yes. Like, I would not mind if somebody emailed my boss is like, "Can you believe Steven said this?"
Yeah. Yeah. I think Raul Reddy's got a sense of humor. I think he'll be fine. Yeah.
He would, and, just
That's funny.
me talking bad about the Astros and the Aggies because they let me down is I think going to be okay. Um,
But what
but
if someone deletes their profile altogether, Steven? Let's say I go back and I delete my LinkedIn profile. I said, you know
yeah,
what? It's
I
not worth
still
the
think the
hassle.
government
Yeah.
has that information just
It
because
has it?
again,
Okay.
like I don't know. I would assume they do because we know like NSA and DHS have way more information than we ever
Yeah.
think.
So that would be
And
more
so
harm then at that point if they search for it and find that the profile doesn't exist. Then yeah.
I I'm not sure because there isn't a requirement to keep your social media. The question on the DS-160 is what have you used in the last 5 years?
Yep.
And from there, you have to keep what you have open, right? That's what the announcement says. Like,
Yep.
um, are instructed to adjust the privacy settings on all their social media to public. Well, if you don't have a social media profile, like how do you make it public?
Yep.
And so I don't know how they're going to view deleting it. Maybe they're going to try to go through maybe it'll be a 221G where they say we need to dig into this. We know that you had a Facebook and then you deleted
2
it.
years
Like,
ago.
what's
Yep.
up?
Yep.
What did
Yep.
what kind of things were you having on there? Maybe they go to the Wayback Machine. Whatever they use. I don't know. Maybe they don't care. It's deleted. It's deleted. We're at kind of the beginning of this,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep. It's just I've been talking to folks and there's a lot of panic. And as
Oh,
always, so they're like,
yeah,
"What do we do?
usually.
Should we remove it? Should we not keep it? I don't want people to like you said. Two parents reached out and told me I don't want people to see my family photos and I don't want to keep
Yeah,
them in public. I'm like,
I
that's
mean
it.
that's just a
That's fair. Yeah.
thing my wife and I have done for years. And
Yeah.
it's not that I have anything to hide from the government. If Department of State wants to see my pictures of my kids, playing football and doing cheerleading, doing dance, doing piano, whatever, like I don't give a shit. But I don't want
Yeah.
like weirdos on the internet seeing
See,
that.
getting access to that. Yeah. A lot more harm there, right?
And that's what it comes down to. And I'm curious to know, and I'll have to see, what people are saying in like the privacy groups, like the privacy interest groups. Like we talk about, there are still a First Amendment right. Like I know when you're outside the U.S., it doesn't really apply, and that's the consulate and all that. But like you do have a little bit of privacy interest, and not necessarily from like a criminal standpoint, but
Yeah.
like I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what
Absolutely.
comes of this because it's just kind of weird, like it feels very invasive. I will tell you, I mean, like I
Yep.
said, the big things I've seen historically be issues is, people on Facebook list the wrong employer. Um, or
LinkedIn. I
they
mean, yeah.
list the end
Yeah.
client or the vendor, the prime vendor or
Yeah.
whatever, or same thing with LinkedIn. And so I do think that's important. The other thing I've seen in like the H-1B context is why, this person has and I could see this, this person has a LCA, for working in Houston. Why is everything they do in social media coming from California? And like, it's
Yeah.
one thing to
Oh
take a
wow. Okay.
vacation. It's one thing to take a vacation, but are you living in California when you're not, when you're supposed to be working in Houston
Yep.
is another. Um, so, you know, I would be sure that it's up to date, when you're going like, okay, I'm actually working with ABC Corp. I'm not working with Facebook. I do live in Houston. Everybody knows I live in Houston
Yep.
because
Yep.
again, I have seen that be an issue before,
Yep.
especially at the port of entry where like they've scanned phones and gone through WhatsApp messages and like, why are you living here? So just I think that is the biggest piece of advice is like, I don't think you need to like gear your online presence to like for immigration, but like make sure you're not. I think at the end of the day, don't violate immigration law, right? And
Yep. Yep.
so make sure you're following the rule there because they are going to look at that,
Yeah, because the LinkedIn point that you make is very valid, and I've seen that in many folks. So, just a
right?
quick pro tip to people: if you do have a parent company and you're you're contracted somewhere else, LinkedIn does give you the option to put both. You do have an option to say you're a contractor. You do have an option to say full time. Put both, right? That way, you're not technically breaking the law. You're not
Hmm.
misleading anyone. Have your parent company saying you're full time and say that you're contracted to another person and list that as a contractor. So you're not you get the I get it. You get the name that you want, build up experience there, and you're not breaking any rules at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one time, like when I first started, I asked like Rahul already. I was like why? And he's like, it's like it's an ego thing. Like they want to look better, like maybe like look cooler for the ladies, like whatever it might be.
Recruiters,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and so just make sure that is something I've seen, like historically seen
yep,
issues
yep,
with, and so especially when we're talking about now, you got to keep your social media public. Maybe you have a more private LinkedIn. That's not uncommon, right? Like I sometimes will look up government attorneys I'm litigating against to see
yeah,
what their experience is, and sometimes I can't find any info because they're not public.
yep,
So just keep it. Make sure you're following the rules, keeping things updated.
yep. On that note, Simon, we'll jump to the next one that we've got
Hmm.
today. Right, we've got let's talk about EADs. This has
Yep.
caused some panic again. I feel like everything is causing panic these days. But yeah, this
I
we've got
know.
we've got
Yeah.
a reduction from 5 years to 18 months out of the blue.
Mhm.
That's for. Could you give us a little more info on that, Stephen? Yep.
Yeah. So I actually want to take a step back because we have this memo come out or this policy alert that comes out from USCIS for certain work authorizations. And
Yep.
it's the EAD, very specific categories. And I'm trying to find the actual announcement. But one of them being the C9 EAD you get when you have a pending adjustment of status.
Okay.
And that's been a um pretty helpful having the 5 years. Why? Well, let's go back to
What's a
2020.
C9 EAD, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you apply for adjustment of status, you apply for your green card, you are eligible to apply for work and travel authorization. So you can get your advanced parole and you
Okay.
can get an EAD. And every EAD has a category, right? A regulatory category.
Right.
The H4 EAD is C26. There's different categories. There's a whole list of them.
Oh wow. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Um, and it cites to the regulation. Like, let me look it up here. It's all here we go. The whole list of them here. Like big ones that we see, like refugees is A3, asylees is A5. There's like literally 2A through 20. Our post completion OPT is C3B. The STEM extension is C37. Anyway, the C9 EAD is for pending adjustment of status. And this is
Okay.
all people applying for adjustment of status. You can apply for work and travel authorization. Why? Well, USCIS recognized when they created these regulations that, hey, it's going to take a while. Like green cards are a big deal. It's going to take a while. So
Yep.
we're going to give people benefits, these interim benefits, the work and travel authorization. So they're not just stuck. Because let's take the pending adjustment of status. And for H1Bs, we know you can keep extending and all that. Well, like L1s, you can't.
Oh right. Yeah.
R visas for religious workers, you can't. And so like you're gonna have a priest who like can't work and be a priest because he's waiting for his green card. And then maxes out on his R1 time. And so like, okay,
Yep.
we're gonna give you this work and travel authorization.
So it takes that long for adjustment of status?
I mean, it can, right? Like I've seen some that are like let's say everything goes clean, like 2 years, 3 years. It's not
Wow.
uncommon. And so they give these interim benefits, and most people, especially in the Indian backlog community, are like, great. I've got work authorization. I've got this advanced parole. I don't have to go to the consulate. This is kind of cool. I don't really care how long my green card takes. And then eventually they get irritated and like we've litigated those delays. But so they have this list of going back, sorry, to 2020. There's a backlog in we have a backlog in EADs, right? Just
Right.
wholesale. And especially with some of these, they weren't charging, right? USCIS didn't charge for the adjustment of status EAD until recently. Some of these refugee ones, they didn't asylees, withholding of removal, they weren't charging for those. So they're doing all these renewals every year, every whatever it was. It was like 1 year, 2 years,
Yep.
whatever, like for free. And then there's a backlog and they're doing it for free. And so they're like, we're going to just do 5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
We're
Made
going to do
sense. Yeah.
5 year EAD. So that way we don't have to keep adjusting them. And so for somebody with a green card application, outside of the folks, that retrogressed and are finally becoming current again, like that works, right? They're going to probably get their green card adjudicated in that 5 years. And what USCIS did, what was this, Wednesday, Thursday?
Yep.
Is say, hey, we're going to go to 18. And they're putting this in the idea of national security. And if we take a step back, this is like the second thing they've done to EADs in the guise of national
Security. Yep.
security when it comes to these EADs. Now, this list um, involves refugees and asylees, the Trump administration. So here's the list that they keep attacking. It's EADs for refugees, asylum seekers, withholding of deportation, removal, adjustment of status, and like these people with pending applications under the Nicaraguan Adjustment and Central American Relief Act. Okay, but like, let's really talk about what they're concerned about, which is the refugees and asylum seekers, because they want to, in their view, open borders, Joe Biden let everybody in and gave them work authorization. And we don't know if we can be safe. Okay. And people who get asylum can also apply for adjustment of status eventually too. And so we keep seeing this attack on these EADs. We saw this, we go back to was it right around Halloween, they
Yep.
published an interim final rule to get rid of the automatic extension
Yep.
for almost all EADs, I think all of them except for like certain ones that have different regulatory guidance, but especially uh, the C9 EAD for our listeners, the adjustment of status EAD. Why? Well, in their view, it's all about national security. We have we've got to protect Americans, and by giving people this automatic extension, we're not able to do that. Now, here's the silly part of this, right? Because a lot of the interim final rule was predicated on asylum seekers and refugees, and there was a couple instances
Yep.
of behavior everybody would agree was reprehensible, like murder, right?
Yeah,
Well,
like
couple
the
things.
National Guard shooting, right? Yeah.
Right. So, a
Yep.
couple things. Number one, I don't think people who are going on mass killing sprees are worried about their work authorization.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're
I
like,
still feel they could have carved out employment based even. Like,
agree. I
right?
totally
Yeah.
agree. I think they
Yeah.
took a chainsaw when a scalpel could have done
Yep.
here. The other thing that's silly on all this, and we go back to the automatic extension because like we need to vet them and we need to make sure if we take the government at their word that this is going to make us safer. Getting rid of automatic extensions of EADs doesn't mean someone's removable. Doesn't mean they have to leave the US. It just means they can't work.
Yeah.
And so it's not really put in anything that's really based on substance, right? It's kind of this fallacy. And then when we talk about this new policy of we're going to get rid of lessen the time, like I don't believe the government's waiting to do anything on a security thing because there's an EAD application. So let's talk about what we actually got to this week. So we get this attack. We're gonna get rid of the automatic extension,
Yep.
which is silly, right? Now
But the
we're gonna
extension
go
was before the attack, though, right?
right. So the getting
Yep.
rid of the
Yep.
automatic
Yep.
extension was back in October.
Yep. Yep.
Now we're gonna go from the 5 years to the 18 months. It allows us to increase screening, vetting of aliens. In their view, now you've got to apply every 18 months. We'll run you through the background check. They talk about the National Guard attack here in this announcement. Obviously, not done by someone on a employment-based
Yeah.
EAD.
Yeah.
And then again, just kind of say we're going to go to the 18 months so that way we can keep vetting. And here's Rahul, the issue that this is I see, Brad sees, right? Like Brad and I talk all the time. He's been on the show. My partner, Emily Newman, and I talk. This is going to create this cycle. The nice thing about the 5-year EADs is you have less EAD applications, which has led less to a backlog. I have done very little litigation on EAD delays because the backlog on EAD processing is getting better.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have people applying every 18 months. Now we're going to see more applications. Now there's no automatic extension. So if the government takes a while, you're going to lose work. Now we're already seeing them increase processing time because they want to increase vetting. And so when you take all of these together, you're going to end up in this situation where you get an 18-month EAD. You're going to apply 6 months in advance because you're listening to me and Rahul and tell you to apply as early as you can for your EAD, right? And then it's going to take 7 or 8 months to adjudicate, maybe longer because they're going to
Oh,
get
it takes that long to get you.
I mean, if we get back to like when processing times were bad, right?
And
It
there's
could
no
be
premium for this, right?
7, 8 months, and when there's an increase, right?
Yeah.
What's it going to do? And then you're going to apply. So you're just going to be in this vicious cycle of applying for EADs again.
Is there premium processing for this?
No.
Oh,
The
fantastic.
C9 EAD does not have premium processing. And so you have work authorization that now doesn't automatically extend.
Yep.
And it's finite time. So it says right here. So the processing times at service centers for the C9 EAD is 12 months.
Jesus.
Or sorry, excuse me, 7 months. I apologize. 7 months. And it's 3.5
by
if
the
it's at the
12, yeah.
National Benefit Center. Now we look at like other EADs, it can be longer. And so
That's 7
it's
months
just,
currently, right? Now you open up the
like
floodgates. You open up the
today
floodgates. Yeah, it's
for the C9 EAD.
yeah.
And so, it is again. 18 months seems okay in its own shell because, okay, I apply, I get it approved, whatever. But when you also take away the automatic extension
Yeah.
and we talk about delays, we know there was a lot of EAD delays during the first Trump administration. Now we're also going to increase the amount of applications because they're done every 18 months instead of 5 years.
Yep.
And it's going to create this issue where people might lose work authorization and they might have to look towards litigation to get this across. Or what are they going to do? Maybe they're going to maintain their non immigrant status instead of being able to use this EAD, which is a lot more helpful. And so it's kind of a frustrating thing because we've seen this vicious cycle before. Now, I do know, like, one of our listeners, like, on the group had mentioned, like, what about the H4 EAD? Is that going to be 18 months instead of like the 3 years? No.
It'll be a different category,
Again,
right? Yep.
very different categorical approach.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're not going to try to mess with the H4
Yeah,
EAD
but
later.
again, that was never that never got the luxury of 5 years, right? It was always
No, it never
tied to
did.
the dependent petition of 3 years
Yeah,
potentially.
absolutely. So
So
really, for the
yeah,
folks who are listening that are listening,
yeah,
it's they've applied for their green card, they've got the adjustment of status pending,
yeah,
they have that work authorization, which you know, in let's take June for example, was a 5 year EAD, and you got a 540-day automatic extension. And if we want to even go deeper in the history, originally there was no automatic extension, but USCIS had a regulation saying we're going to adjudicate EADs in 90 days.
yep,
They started not being able to reach that, so they said we're going to get rid of the regulation that says we'll do it in 90 days and we'll give a 180-day
yep,
automatic extension. Okay, you apply 6 months in advance, you get 180 days. Like, we should be able to adjudicate in a year. We saw during the H4 EAD delays, stuff 2020, 2021, 2019, that they couldn't. They would, drag those out. Then they did this 540-day extension for like the C9 EAD because they're backlogged and they don't want to keep doing these extensions and rushing them, whatever. And now they're like, no more of any of that, right? We're going to get rid of the safeguards that protect immigrants from losing their jobs.
yeah.
And again, if we even take them at their word that they're worried about national security, and this isn't just a guise to like mess with immigrants, right? These EADs are only going to cause people not to work. I
Yeah, they're still in the
imagine,
country. Yeah,
right? They're still in the country,
yeah,
right? Like, again, I imagine the shooter in DC. That's a horrible thing. I don't
yeah.
imagine like he was sitting there like, okay, I need my
Oh, I need to get to
EAD
work
approved.
today.
I need my EAD approved before I can do this. Okay. And
Yeah,
it's I get the idea of security, but these
yeah,
EADs are not really tied to the security when we talk about they're still here in the US.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Your presence on the soil is still there. You're not changing
You
it.
know, if you have a pending adjustment of status, you can continue to stay in the US. If your C9 EAD expires, your AOS EAD expires, this means you can't work.
Yep.
Doesn't mean you have to leave. And so
So what about the
um
folks who probably just got it approved for 5 years? Is that gonna
they're
be
good. They're
they're
good.
good?
So what they
Lucky
make
guys.
clear
Yeah.
in this announcement is that it's anybody who is pending or will be filing in the future. So if you have a 5 year EAD, you're good.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So it's
It
just
says
this
this change
existing.
affects aliens who are pending or filed on or after December 5th. So as of today, if your application is still pending, if it got
Gotcha.
approved yesterday
Yeah, fine.
and you get that card that says 5 years, you're good.
Gotcha.
Nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. It's just anything as of today will be the 18 months.
Gotcha. So then the goal is increase vetting. How much more vetting can we take, Stephen? At this point, I might
Yeah,
just invite someone from the government to come live with me.
so this is something like, peek behind the curtains. Brad Bannis and I were talking about potentially challenging the automatic extension interim final rule. Because when we talk about an interim final rule, they're skipping notice and comment because of an emergency, right? And their
Yep.
emergency is we need to vet these people. Like, we don't know.
Yep.
And he calls me. He's like, "Get this," and he talks about this lady who applied for EAD, got the I-539 approved, but the EAD was still pending. So she gets an automatic extension, travels, goes to India, comes back into the US. So now they get rid of the automatic, her EADs, she files a new EAD because there was an issue. Now she doesn't get the automatic extension, right? Because it's filed after that date. This lady has an approved I-539, so they vetted her then. She
That's
traveled,
crazy. Shit.
went for
Yeah.
visa stamping, so she was vetted then. Got admitted, so she was vetted then. And now they're like, well, now you can't work because we got to vet you. Like,
Yeah.
what are we accomplishing here?
I mean, there's a vetting round that happens every 3 years for an H-1B. It's like, how much more
Right.
do
And
you?
that,
Yeah.
what I think is happening with some of these is they, we see this a lot in the current administration where they take a chainsaw when maybe a scalpel would do. Or I always tell Brad, it's a fire ready aim mentality, right? They're just gonna put something out there and then they'll figure it out. Look at the
Fire
hundred
ready aim.
thousand dollar look at the $100,000 proclamation. Like that came out and everybody's like, oh my god, it's the worst thing ever. And then like they're like, whoa, all of y'all are idiots. You don't know what you're talking about. This is what it really means. And, but it's true. They go
Well,
fire
to be
ready
fair,
aim.
we all saw that live stream. Yeah.
I
At the-
hey, but they go fire ready aim, and
yeah.
they don't really think all
Fire
of the
ready.
they don't go with all the nuance of
Yeah.
maybe somebody who has an employment based application is a lot different than what they're worried about
Yep.
for the most part.
Yep. Yep. So, one final topic before we go to the next
Mhm.
one, Stephen. Now that this is going on, right? I'm going to tie this to a question that I got from someone from the community, right? Uh, the question is that okay, you've got the adjustment of status EAD, which is now
Mhm.
reduced from a 5 to an 18 months, right? Uh, the person's attorney recommended that he stay on H-1B instead of doing this because you could have
Mhm.
your AOS delayed or denied.
Mhm.
So with this proclamation going on right now, is it make sense for folks to just continue maintaining an H-1B instead of filing for an EAD, or should they abandon the H-1B status and go for this and keep doing it every 18 months?
So, gosh, it's funny because for years, our firm had been of the belief like if your I-140 is approved,
Yep.
and especially if you don't have criminal issues or visa issues, more like 45s typically get approved, right? Unless you
Okay.
have
Yep.
this criminal, maybe if the criminal or immigration issues like are typically the reasons we see them get denied
Yep.
or like um I've had some weird ones pop up a couple times, but like very uncommon.
Okay.
We would say, hey, get married to your green card pending adjust, EAD, right? Like just use that. You don't have to worry about balancing some people try to balance the H-1B and the pending adjustment of status. And
You allowed to
like
do that?
you can. You can
Okay.
apply for the EAD,
Okay.
keep it in your back pocket, and do your H-1B. Um, as long as you maintain the terms and conditions of the H-1B. And we would say, like, stop filing the EAD extension, especially with the people, that filed in 2020 for their 485s and then retrogressed. We're all whole ready with, like, stop paying lawyers. Like, just, like, to do your H-1B. Just go do the EAD.
Yep.
The question is a very good one now. Because when we talk, there is still a lot of value in the C9 adjustment of status EAD. You can work multiple jobs. You can you don't have this issue where if you get terminated, the grace period and a lot more protection, and things that are open, but without an automatic extension. If the backlogs get as bad as they were in like 2019, 2021, there might be benefits to keeping an H-1B because, you can get the 240-day extension, like under regulations, right? With an H-1B. If you timely apply for an
Yep.
H-1B, you
Yep.
can continue to work for up to 240 days beyond the expiration of the I-94. And so this is a conversation I think people need to think for themselves, like, what's best for me? Like, look, as an immigration attorney, like everybody hates me, and it's like you just want, people like, yeah, like it's another H-1B petition, but like truly, I think it's better for people to be on the C9 EAD until the last few months. That maybe it won't be, because we don't have the automatic extension, and now we have an 18 months versus a 5 year. Um, but some people might be like, okay, it is still good because you know what? I want to keep working for Facebook, but I have the startup I want to do too. Well, okay, maybe that's best to do under your C9 EAD.
Yeah.
Where you have that more unrestricted work. So I don't, a lot of it's gonna be, for lack of better words, risk tolerance, right? Now you can always go back to your
Yeah.
H-1B. There's ways to go back to your H-1B even if you use your C9 EAD.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
there
Okay.
are avenues to do that, but um, I think people got to think like, what's my scenario now? If you're like, hey, I'm going to work for my H-1B employer anyway, I just kind of want the
Yeah, just
EAD in
stick with
my
your
back
H1B at that
pocket.
point. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can still apply for the EAD, keep it in your back pocket in case things go weird,
Oh,
whatever.
so if you get your EAD, doesn't mean that your H1B is like done.
No,
Oh,
no.
okay, gotcha.
We would say you get, and again, this is kind of a term we're already created, like where you get married to your EAD when you kind of go outside the terms and conditions of your H-1B. So
Right.
if you're working for your H-1B employer and you're following the LCA terms and you're working where you're supposed to, great. If you decide like I want to live in a van and like do my H-1B work, like still work for my company, but like drive around to all the national parks and I guess now pay a higher fee because I'm not an American, and
Touche.
um, camp out and like use my use Starlink to do things, and I don't want to file amendments. You probably want to use your EAD,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, once you get married and go outside the terms and conditions, like, hey, I want to work 5 jobs, like, okay, you're probably going to need your EAD.
Yep. 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 So yeah, for folks tuning in, yeah, case by case, maybe you have this. Think about it first. I like the words that Steven used, risk tolerance, right? And I think it's very applicable in today's climate. So
Yeah, I
see how
mean,
much of a risk you're comfortable taking, and then
I just
have a chat
think,
with the attorney. Yep.
yeah, and look, I mean, I, I do think it's obviously, there's benefits to both. It's just going to be kind of what fits you. And I'm not saying, okay, you need to go spend, a couple $100s for a consultation. Like, I think you can kind of think through this. Like,
Yeah.
my priority date's current. I'll probably get my green card. I might not need to extend it. I'm going to apply early. Like, I've got these options. I want to do like the side gig. Maybe it's worth doing the EAD. And
Absolutely.
but if you're like, look, I'm just going to work for my H-1B employer and like low risk, like all that, like everybody's happy. Just you can stick with it. There's nothing wrong with it. Like I
Yeah.
said, it used to be like until the last few months, like we would say, like get married to your EAD. Stop
Yep.
worrying about both. Um,
To be honest, I like
because
the other one, what you said, where just file for both and keep the AD in your back pocket. I like
yeah,
that.
and I
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
now if it's just kind of decide what you want to do.
Yep. Yep. Well, jump to the last part of today's chat, Stephen, which
Mhm,
is visa revocations, right? We've been
mhm.
seeing folks, and we've spoken about one or two of them who've been notified out of the blue that their visa has been prudentially revoked.
Yeah,
And this is the first time I'm hearing that term, to be honest. And
yeah.
you
I got a
probably have heard
story
it
for you
before.
after this. I got to
Yeah.
tell you about
Uh,
Prudential visa
okay.
revocations.
Yeah, you probably have heard of it quite
Mhm.
often. And I like someone I know, pretty unfortunate happened to him, and I got a copy of that. And the wording was very different, Stephen. A prudential visa revocation, they said if you're outside the country, it means your visa is revoked. But it
Mhm.
said if you're inside the country, it's revoked once you leave
Mhm.
the country.
Mhm.
So could you give us a little more clarity on what that is, and what are the impacts on someone who's gotten this notification? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting, and the one you sent me, or the person that I had talked to, because theirs did say Prudential visa revocation.
Yep.
Historically, it didn't. We just had to do analysis to determine. So, what does this come from? Under the Immigration Nationality Act,
Yep.
Department of State can revoke visas for like almost any reason, right? They decide they didn't like Rahul shirt. Okay, usually it's they found out some derogatory information. What we have historically seen is Department of State would revoke visas, um, certain arrests, especially DUIs. You get an email from Department of State saying your visa's been revoked. And those ones are interesting because the language just says under INA
Revoked.
201I, your visa's been revoked. And people are like, oh my God, I have to leave the country right now. And what you have to look for is there's this policy. The Foreign Affairs Manual has this it's this policies and procedures for Department of State, has this thing called Prudential visa revocations. And this came up a lot in the SEVIS context, right?
All right, the students.
Because
Okay.
part of the reason we were in on emergency relief is they revoked the visas, and technically a visa revocation can make one subject to removal, and then they terminated their status. Well, historically, they didn't revoke visas and then terminate the status, right? That happened with the student visa stuff. So we're like, oh my God, all these kids are going to get put in removal proceedings. What the hell? And the government's like, hold on a minute. These are prudential visa revocations. It really just means when they leave the US, their visas are revoked and they have to go to the consulate. The consulate will make a determination in admissibility, but they can stay in their status. I'm like, okay. Like, I know about prudential visa revocations.
It's kind of contradictory, no? Like
it is, and it's very weird because people say like, okay, visas are revoked, I gotta leave. But the visa in your passport is only needed to enter the US. Department of State can't revoke your status. Now, they can suggest to USCIS, maybe they get information and say, hey, USCIS, take a look at this, and then USCIS can send a notice of intent to revoke.
right.
Or notice of intent to deny. I've seen that before, right? Like people go for stamping, they get a 221G. Department of State says we're going to recommend it for revocation. Goes back to USCIS. USCIS sends a notice of intent to revoke. But Department of State can't revoke your status. Your status is governed by your I-94 and maintaining the terms and conditions. So how do you know if you have a prudential visa revocation or not? Well, number one, some of the ones we've seen recently say it is prudentially revoked or revoked prudentially. And again, this is a term in the Foreign Affairs Manual. It is sub-regulatory guidance. It's not in the statute. It's not in the regulation. It just exists.
Yep.
And if we look at all the information we gained from ICE, right, during the student visa stuff, a prudential visa revocation doesn't make you subject to removal. All it means is the visa that's in your passport, control numbers at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, is revoked. You can no longer use that for entry into the US. And so when you leave, you have to apply for a visa, go to the consulate, and they're going to make a determination, are you admissible to the United States? Now, we have seen, as long as I've been practicing, multiple administrations, Department of State prudentially revoke visas anytime anybody has a DUI arrest.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And they're going to go in, they might go through a medical panel, whatever. What we're seeing now, and what is kind of weird, is sort of what we saw in the student visa stuff, but I haven't seen it hit the scale yet, where it's like this old crime that you did 5 years ago. In fact, the one I talked to today was 2017, and it was dismissed and it was expunged. It was like a speeding thing. We're revoking your visa, and there's no explanation as to why. And so the individual's kind of left with wondering, and there's not really a way to find out. So I'm curious, and this is I brought this up at a partner meeting today when you and I were texting, are we seeing maybe ones and twos? Or is this the next thing they're going to do? We keep seeing Department of State say visas are privileges and the U.S. is a privilege, and okay, great. Are they now doing what they did during the student visa stuff and say, anybody who had a criminal record, we're going to revoke your visa, even if we just issued it and you had got into the US,
Yep.
we're going to revoke it so that way next time you have to check in with us. The big thing is when you get these Prudential visa revocations, like, don't make a rash decision. Like, either talk to the group, talk to an attorney, whatever, because these Prudential visa revocations don't impact your status. You can adjust status, you can change status, you can extend your status.
What about H4s tied to this person's?
I think it's totally fine. Totally,
okay.
it does not impact your status. In fact, I had it show up, and again, I've seen a lot of Prudential visa revocations. You know, people are like, "I got to do what? Like, what's going on?" I had one case where the adjustment of status was denied. They did an MTR. MTRs for adjustment of status are pointless. I could go on a rant. And we sued. And we're like, here's this whole thing on Prudential visa revocations. They reopened it and approved it. Because the Prudential visa revocation doesn't impact your status. And
Right.
again, we have testimony from ICE. We have testimony from DOJ during our SEVIS stuff that really makes that clear. But it is not the most normal thing, because again, it doesn't show up in statute, it doesn't show up in regulation, it shows up in the Foreign Affairs Manual, and even that mostly talks about it in the DUI context.
Right.
But we just know from the student visa stuff that they're doing these Prudential visa revocations for arrests. What's weird is they're doing it for old arrests where visas have been issued since.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. Is this a new trend? Is it that they're looking at something? Honestly, it could be something completely different. I just don't think it is based off the conversations I've had.
Gotcha. Follow-up questions on that. For the students, when I was talking to you and Brad about it, you guys, your strategy was to get a temporary injunction filed.
Mhm.
In cases like this, is that the strategy that's going to be used if more and more folks have this? Yeah.
The reason in the student visa cases we went with the emergencies was, one, they terminated their SEVIS, which terminated their status.
Okay.
And then when they did the termination of status and had a visa revocation, we were like, oh shoot, they might be trying to remove them, right?
Yep.
Yeah, put them in deportation proceedings. I think it's different here because you don't have that threat.
Gotcha.
Right? You don't have, because you're not seeing the status being revoked.
Yep.
Like they were with the SEVIS. I think it makes it very different than what we had during the SEVIS stuff.
Gotcha. So what's the way to correct this, Stephen? Like, what do you do?
So there's not a ton of great ways. There's not an appeal process.
Okay.
There isn't the litigation is something I hadn't, thought through on this, because usually it's just hey, you have to check in with the consulate. It's not really even that horrible of a thing, other than we know how consulates are right now, right?
But
and
that risk is insane, right? You're leaving everything behind.
It's insane.
And going.
Like,
you're like,
and again, I got a story for you after this, but like, it is a risk, like going for stamping and like, are you going to get put in administrative processing 221G? What's that look like? How long is that going to be? Is the consulate just going to be like, we don't want you anymore? Like, deny. All I can say is it doesn't impact your status in the U.S. and we know that you can stay in the U.S.
But you're just landlocked until you.
I know, right? Like, it's bizarre, and I hate saying that. But it's not a great time to travel internationally. Like,
yep.
Go for the consulate, like even in the best scenarios. But I know I talked to the individual today, like, oh my God, what does this mean? And the big takeaway is like, the guy was like, do I gotta talk to my employer? Are they gonna get something like, is ICE gonna show up at work? No. Like, especially when it says Prudential, no.
Yep.
It gets weird when we see these ones that just say your visa's been revoked and it doesn't say prudentially revoked, where we have to do more analysis into it. But the Prudential visa revocations, it doesn't impact status. I wrote an article for our firm's
I read
website
it. It
because
was very detailed. Yeah, thanks for
yeah, I was
sharing
doing
that.
a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
research
yeah.
this week on Prudential visa revocations. And so I was like, I'm gonna put it together here. And so just keep an eye out. And I'm curious, and I'm gonna keep an eye out in the community. Like if this is,
A
with the
trend. Yeah,
student visa stuff, it was like one person and then two people, and then it was like
and then
4,000 people,
yeah,
and it just blew up.
yeah,
I haven't I don't have enough data points. I know of a handful of these, and I don't know if there's something else, if it's Department of State's making an individual decision, or is this like what they did with the students where they ran everybody through the criminal records database and
yep,
said visas revoked.
yep,
And that's a lot different because we are challenging those student visa revocations because there wasn't individualized decision making.
yep, yep,
And you know, if that's going to happen in the H-1B context, that is something Brad and I might be interested in.
yep, yep,
But we just, I don't have enough data points yet. I know you've talked to a few people. I've talked to
yep.
a couple of them. I brought it up at our partners meeting today, and a couple of our attorneys were like, "I don't really know, haven't really heard of this yet." So again, I don't know if it's a couple people who maybe just got the short end of the stick, or if they're at the beginning,
Yeah,
right?
if folks affected by this, please reach out. Maybe
Please,
we'll do our best to help you, and it's also a great way for us to understand what's happening. And then just you probably know how to reach Steven. He's very responsive. You can reach out to me also,
yeah,
Twitter, or
and really, like I need,
LinkedIn or anything. Yeah.
data points are critical, right?
Yep. Yep.
Because it's
Absolutely.
hard to tell what's a trend in immigration and what's like a weird officer, a weird situation, and what's like the next thing. The first time we started hearing about some of the student visa stuff, we were like, okay, you're not giving the full story, like what's going on. And
Yep.
then like when you hear the same story from like 15 people, you're like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
trend. And then you're hearing from like other attorneys, you're like, okay, this is really a thing. And I know like there's a good number, like Lorenz is a great attorney, like I'm sure he's keeping an eye on this.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Anna's done things, I'm sure she's keeping an eye on this. And you know the immigration attorney bar is kind of interesting because we do a lot of information sharing, and I'm sure we'll see if this blows up. But if you get something, like talk to somebody because like there needs to be awareness.
Yep. Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I thought we'd do this bit today. To be honest, I wasn't planning on including this, and you're the one who said, "Let's talk
Yeah,
about it." And
like I think it's worth
I
talking
think it's
about.
good. I think it was important now that we've spoken about it. I think it's good that it's out there that folks
Yeah,
don't
because
have to
I
panic.
think
Yeah.
the big thing is like people get that they panic like, what do I need to do? Am I going to be deported? Am I going to go like leave? Or one of these masked ICE agents going to show up my work and throw me in handcuffs and like
Yeah.
sent to El Salvador? And like that's a real fear people have, and
El
it's a
Salvador.
genuine
Yeah.
fear
Yeah.
because it's like happening to people that are in the U.S. But these
Yep.
prudential visa revocations are very unique and very different, and it truly doesn't impact the status side of things.
Yep. Yep. Well, I think I've kept you for a long time, Stephen. I think we
No,
can
I
end
appreciate it. Always
on this. I
happy
think
to.
it was great. Thanks again for showing up and giving us your insights. Uh, I don't know if this is probably be the last one of the year. If fingers
I'm
crossed.
hoping it is
I'm
because
hoping
I'm
it is.
hoping to have like some wildness, right? Like
I'm
me.
hoping nothing new comes out, and this is the last time I see you this year on the
Yes,
podcast.
I'm
And bring it up
hoping.
in
But
chat. And but thank you on behalf of
yeah,
everyone in the
thank you.
community, and thanks for always showing up and guiding us. And just so you know, there's two people on the chat who've said shout out to Steven. One guy gave you like 4 yellow hearts. I don't know what yellow
I
stands for,
appreciate it.
but thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again for
Yeah,
everything. You've been a
always,
great
guys.
friend.
Always,
Appreciate it. Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
appreciate it.
yep. And yeah, thanks, folks. If you, as always, thanks for tuning in. If you've got questions, you know where to find me or where to find Steven. I usually put his email in the show notes, so you can send him a note. Uh, please join the Air 15 community. Steven's there, Lawrence is there. Great folks, and also a great community of immigrants like yourself who look
Mhm.
out for each other. So yeah, if you want to join that community, just I'm going to drop the link to a Google form. Fill that out, and then I'll be in touch with you. But apart from that, thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
See
you.
you all soon.